redrawing the alphabet. Is there any correlation between what a letter looks and sounds like? No, which is why I want to redraw the alphabet. There are a few main goals that I have here. There should be a pattern between what a letter looks and sounds like. The creation of lowercase letters should be prioritized since they'll be written most often. And finally, letters should transition smoothly into each other so you can write an entire word without lifting your writing utensil very much, or at all. Now this ordering of letters is really awkward, so let's reorganize it. Behold my simplified phonetic chart. But what are these ugly gaps? The letters that belong here are usually written up using a combination of two Latin letters, but let's borrow some letters from the Cyrillic alphabet to fill them in. Much better. And lastly, let's add some spaces to make room for my new redrawn letters. Perfect. Don't know if I'm ever going to finish this series, but make sure to like and subscribe because I'm Redrawing the Alphabet Episode 2. Last time I made this simplified phonetic chart to aid in organized letter construction, but it's actually wrong. It's not based on actual phonetic theory and influenced heavily by English phonology specifically, so if this isn't right, then what is? This. This is a simplified version of the International Phonetic Alphabet. But there are certain letters that we wouldn't normally distinguish between in language, so let's simplify this phonetic chart even further, optimizing it for use in language. First, I'm bringing back the semivowels to clarify the pronunciation of things like yi and wu. Let's merge all of these consonants I mentioned earlier. The glottal stop is usually represented by punctuation anyway, so let's get rid of it, and this allows us to merge all of the laryngeal consonants. Hold on a minute, semivowels are actually approximants, so this allows us to unify our chart based on the relation between semivowels and vowels. Redrawing the Alphabet, Episode 3. Last time, we corrected the simplified phonetic chart to more accurately represent phonetic theory. But some of the choices I made for these letters were questionable. However, what really matters is that we have a blueprint for the kinds of letters that we want in our alphabet, which I'll start filling in next episode. Redrawing the Alphabet Episode 4, and it's finally time to start redrawing letters, and I'm going to start off by representing the open vowel with a circle, or triangle, or square, if you're going for a different aesthetic. Furthermore, we can split up this circle into different parts to represent different places of articulation. If our arc or angle, whatever, is pointing to the left, it's going to represent labial sounds. Explanations are popping up on screen right now. If it's pointing up, that'll be coronal. If it's pointing to the right, that'll be dorsal. So this kind of matches up with the cross-section of the mouth with the lips at the left. Furthermore, if we have just the arc or angle on its own, it's going to represent a mid-vowel, because that's the most common type of sound. If the arc is pointing to the right, it's going to represent because that's what happens when you constrict the mouth a little at that point. If it's pointing to the left, and if it's pointing up, if I articulate with the tongue, I get And with that, we've redrawn our first 4 letters. Redrawing the Alphabet, Episode 5. Last time, we created a basic shape that can be rotated to represent different places of articulation. Now it's time to modify that shape to represent different manners of articulation, creating the majority of our letters. Let's add a stroke down the shape to represent a plosive, a stroke going inward at the end of the shape and meeting back up with the main body of the shape on the inside to represent a fricative, and a stroke going across the shape to represent a nasal consonant. Furthermore, to any of these modified shapes, we can add a stroke on the outside at the end of the shape to add voicing, or to turn a mid-vowel into a closed vowel. Except we run into a conflict with fricatives, so we have to draw the inward stroke after the outer stroke, meeting back up with the main body of the shape on the outside. But we still have a few more letters to draw, and they're less regularly organized than the ones we've drawn so far, and I'll be drawing them next episode. Redrawing the Alphabet, Episode 6, and it's finally time to finish up my featural alphabet after over a year of working on it. This will be done in 2 quote-unquote levels, the first being the basic glyphs, A, E, O, I, O, U, Katapa, Gadapa, Hasafa, Gazava, Ganama, Ya, and Wa. The last 2 are new. They represent semivowels, and just like the sounds they represent, these letters are in between their corresponding voiced fricatives and closed vowels. The second level is about modifying these basic glyphs. Paradigms for doing so include modifying the letter shapes directly and adding diacritics. And now, I shall use the former method, reflecting the fricatives to create new ones, joining t with them to create the post-alveolar affricates, and joining joining vowels to create new ones. Now that my featural alphabet is complete, I think it's about time to give it a name. I'm going to call it the Aerobet, after the 4 base letters from which the rest are derived. Redrawing the Alphabet, Episode 7. There's something I forgot. This. It's just a vertical line, but it resembles this punctuation mark, which is often used to represent the glottal stop. So this, you can use it to represent a glottal stop, or it can just be like the H in the word hour that exists for, reasons. For example, this is one way you could spell the word hour using the Aerobet. Just because you've created a new writing system doesn't mean you actually know how to write in it. Redrawing the Alphabet, Episode 8. Now, using my Aerobet featural alphabet to write a language like Spanish is a simple task because the Spanish orthography is already quite regular, meaning I don't have to change much. The same thing cannot be said about English though, and because of this there are 2 ways to go about writing English. The first is to be faithful to the English orthography and map each letter or combination of letters, and the second is to do the same but with the actual sounds instead. Oh my god, bro, the vowels, they're too complicated. English vowels are too complicated. You know what? I'm better off just abandoning this project. So I guess the bottom line is, feel free to use the Aerobet for your constructed language because I'm done with it.